Alright, before I break the wing free from my little jig supports, I'm going to add to the bottom a gap cover. And this will be 1/64 ply. To do that, I have a little special tool. So what I intend to do is have about 3/16 of an inch gap over the trailing edge. My tool gives about a 1/4 inch trough for the plywood to sit in. Simple tool. Just a piece of, I think this is 60 grit paper, and I've got a little backer here that rests against the trailing edge like that, and that's glued to, it was a landing gear mount from some model. I'm not sure what it was now, but anyway, pretty simple to use. The trick is getting just the right depth. Stop right here. The real aircraft does not have a gap cover for its ailerons, but I think it helps to give the wing a nice finished look. I cut a 1/2 inch wide strip of 1/64 ply. I'm going to have to do this in 2 pieces, and I did it right at the joint with the aileron and the flap. So my 1/64 ply, it fits in the groove fairly well. I've got a little trick for hopefully making it fit just right. I learned it from a modeler over on RCSB. The hard part that I have is getting this to fit just right, not having the trailing edge dip too far down or up, and then having to use a lot of filler. Show you how the gap looks. So something like so. So I have a 1/4 inch into the wing and then a 1/4 inch overhang. And because the row-bar hinge points are inset into the center line of the leading edge, I don't get any rubbing until I get real extreme, but I don't think I'll be using that much aileron through. And I'll do this on both sides. I'm going to be using tight bond to glue the ply to the balsa, and then that little trick that I saw from another modeler I'm going to try first time is to take these little strips and put it over top like so. Hopefully that gives me the nice even level surface between the balsa and the ply. I'll be tacking in these little balsa jigs with a little bit of medium CA. By the way, this strip is only about 3/8 inch wide. I had to make it a little bit narrower in width because of the 60 degree or maybe 60 degree deflection of the flap. With the bottom aileron gap cover, I tried gluing the jig tabs onto the ply before gluing the ply to the wing. I wanted to see which method would work better, and they both seemed to be about the same. The only real issue I had was more difficulty in controlling the thin CA than the medium CA, so I guess the first method is a little bit easier. I'm not sure if I like this method or not. The trailing edge does seem to be a little more in line with the sheeting, which is nice. But no matter how careful I was with the CA, it still has some hard spots and some depressions where it pulled the balsa up. The depressions will actually be okay. I mean, I can fill those in with putty, no problem. I just got to make sure there aren't any raised spots like on the ply right here, because then that's, when it's fiberglass, that's tough to sand down without going through the fiberglass. Okay, I popped the wing off from the glass table. Go ahead and remove my jig supports from the wing. I have some good news and I have some bad news. So this is the top of the wing now. It's the left side of the wing. And I got some pretty decent washout in there. I think it's actually a little more than what I wanted to put in. But this wing is pretty straight for the most part. Now let's go take a look at the other side. Here is the other side. And look at that trailing edge. Wow. I've heard of banana fuselages before, and I've fortunately never built a banana fuselage, but I sure built the banana wing. Wow. Yeah, they say the mark of a good builder is not how well he builds, but how well he fixes his mistakes. Let me see how I'm going to fix this. This bow was not in the wing when it was still attached to the tabletop. This developed after I popped it free from the tabletop. I guess I built in some stress. So I think I'm going to try a couple different methods from easiest to hardest. The first will be to wet down the wing and apply a lot of weight to try to bring that bow down. And if that doesn't work, we'll probably have to maybe make an X in the skin and try to twist the wing in the opposite direction, re-glue it. What I've done here is I retacked the balsa jig pieces back to the wing. I did not glue them to the table, instead I'm using weights. Some cases a lot of weight, in some cases a whole lot of weight. And I have wet down the top sheeting and the trailing edge with this version of Windex. Anyway, it has ammonia in it, and that's the important thing. I pretty much flooded the sheeting, and right now the trailing edge is pretty straight. I'll have to let this sheeting dry. I'll probably have to let it sit overnight and come back and take a look at it tomorrow. Next morning, and I've removed the weights, and it's better. It is definitely better than it was before. It's not perfect. Now I need to wait to see if it's going to spring back. All right, after about 5 hours, there hasn't been any real change in the shape, so I think I'm going to be okay. It's not perfect, but it's certainly better than it was. Wetting the sheeting with the Windex, or the glass cleaner, caused a little bit of a buckle right here, right about where this black line is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cut it open, trying to find the ribs, and then apply some CA to the ribs, and then finally to the whole thing. All right, I believe that's a little bit better. There is going to be a slight little dip right here, but I can take care of that either with some lightweight filler, or after I fiberglass, I can fill it in with putty. The weight sort of crushed the balsa skin a little bit, you know, really compressed it here, and also on the bottom where I had the cradle and it was pressing against the cradle. So wood, as long as the fibers aren't broken or cut, you can sometimes actually bring it back from being crushed. So I'm going to try to do that, just using a little bit of water, spritz it, and then some heat, and see if I can't bring this balsa back. Wow, so just really the little bit right here, but that's easily filled in with some filler. So this is the other side of the wing, and you can see my little divot right here where the cradle was. I don't think the wood is actually, the fibers are broken. I don't think I'm going to be able to pull all of this out, but let's see how much I can get out. That worked out pretty doggone good. Now remember, this only works if the wood fibers are not broken. If they've been cut or torn, then this doesn't really work. Only if the wood has been compressed. Wow. Now that seems perfectly, man, just a very tiny dip right here. I'm going to call that a win. For the top of the wing, I have the gap covers glued on and ready to knock off the little jig tabs, sand them down, and the leading edge has been glued on to the sub-leading edge, and it's ready to be shaped as well. I don't really have a template, so I'm just going to eyeball this shaping. You notice I'm not putting a center line on anything. I'm doing this strictly by eye, and I think it'll be close enough. All right, overall it feels pretty good. Might need a little bit of putty up around this area right here. Sheeting is dipping a little bit below. Leading edge is looking pretty good. I'm thinking maybe a little more fine tuning, but let me do the other side first. All right, I'm down to just trying to finish off the leading edge here, and to do that I'm just going to use some witness marks. The very leading edge here is a little bit flat, so I'm just trying to round it out a little bit. I believe the leading edge, I'm going to call it done. Let's take a quick look at the end. High spot right here possibly. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with it. And then a view of the leading edge. Wing is upright now. Again, this middle part here, I'll take care of that with the fuselage is ready. As you can see, it's a fairly flat curve along the front. So when I put the flap servo mount in, I actually put it on the bottom of the wing. And that's not going to work, is it? So now I get to cut in here and stick another mount in. I considered pulling the one I have in, pulling it out and putting it in here, but it would really just mess up the whole bottom of the wing, and I'll just leave it in there and make a whole new mount. So now it's time to do some surgery. I won't show the whole process of putting the new flap servo mount in the top of the wing. It was just like what I did in the previous video on the flaps and ailerons. I'll just show a few snippets of things that I may have done a little bit differently. I'm adding tick marks to the opening to transfer to the new sheeting for sizing. The tab provides support to the main sheeting to prevent it from sagging.